Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Baggers Chats. Now today we are going to cover our trade talk and this is week one, and today I'm joined with Ethan Duffy. How are you, mate?
Very well, mate. Exciting times.
Exciting times. So obviously the past I don't think we posted for probably about over maybe a week or two. So we've obviously missed quite a big news in the club with appointing our new senior coach Michael Voss. What are your thoughts on that, Duff?
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked about that. I was actually a pretty big advocate a few years ago when he was in the race for it with Teague before Teague got hired.
Yeah.
Obviously, Teague got hired and Vossi kept his assistant role at Port Adelaide. But I think for me, it's good because he's just hungry. He's hungry to prove himself again at the top job at a club. So how long has it been since he's been at Brisbane? 7 years?
He left in 2013.
Yeah, so 8 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a long time. So what do you reckon? I think it's a perfect.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we were both very looking at the two coaches, which was obviously Ross Lyon and Alistair Clarkson. And I don't they fell through, but I don't think Michael Voss is really a third option. Like a lot of people say, oh yeah, he's the third option.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I didn't actually know this, but he had 5 years of coaching experiences at Lions. He coached there for 5 years.
Yeah.
That's a lot more than that's a lot more than I thought that he did. And also, as you said, I feel like he would have developed his craft at Port Adelaide, being like a part of the team with Ken Hinkley. So I reckon he would have been, I reckon that would have definitely helped him. And obviously signing a 3-year deal with the Blues. And also, as you said, he's a winner. He's a 3-time premiership player. I think he's a Norm Smith medalist as well.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, they won 3 flags, so surely one of the games he got more.
Yeah, but like a 3-time premiership player, I just think that's the main thing that we haven't really had a winner coach us. Let's be real.
Yeah.
So we haven't really had a real winner like that. So I reckon that will be a very good get. So very, very stoked about Michael Voss. Now we'll move on to the uncontracted players that we currently still have on our list. So if you just want to quickly just run through who we have on the players list, Duff.
Yep. So obviously I had a list of these the other day, and obviously Honey and Owies have signed on for 2022, which is good. Which is great for the club. They both had pretty good seasons. I think Honey had a pretty good first half of the year in the twos, and obviously got his chance about late in the season, round 20. And Matty Owies really took to the AFL game really well. First Essendon kicked 4 or something.
How good was it?
Which was a great day at the G. One of the only good days at the G this year. But, we'll move on from that. So we've got a few uncontracted players. So our first is our mid-season draftee and Jordan Boyd. What do you reckon? What do you reckon, Pato? Do you reckon we hold on to him, or do we just ship him off?
Yeah, there's a bit of talk that unfortunately he just doesn't look like he's got the potential, which is very sad to see because he hasn't really gotten the chance to really play and really show his potential. But obviously with that 6-month contract, there's not much time to really get your game together. And so I reckon unfortunately he's gone. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's tough because I think he's that kind of mid small forward role that I think we've kind of got covered.
Yeah.
I think our midfield depth, if all goes well, trade period, free agency, I think it's going to be very, very, very good.
Yeah.
So it'd be pretty hard to crack into the side unless we give him another year, see how he goes. But I think he's definitely a solid chance of not being at the club. So next is a name that gets talked about a lot. In our group chat specifically, his name is Lockie O'Brien. What do you reckon, Pato?
Yeah, I think he should stay. Obviously should get a 1 year. I don't know what his last contract was. I believe it was maybe 2 years or maybe it was 1 year. I'm actually not too sure. But I think he should definitely just get that 1 year. I feel like he played all right during the last bit of the season, which we were probably asking for. We were asking for Lockie O'Brien to get that opportunity to actually show what he's got. And I reckon it probably shows that he has the potential, but it's kind of just going to that next level. And obviously, you know me, I love O'Brien. I reckon he's a great player. He's obviously a former pick 10. So I reckon he should definitely get another contract. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm a bit mixed about it, but you know, when you look at it from a certain perspective, if he has a good pre-season, you know, with a new coach and a new, you know, whole game plan and like philosophy, and we use his strengths, which is obviously his foot skills, and he's quite, you know, silky winger, can run all day. But he's just obviously he's got to improve his defensive side of his game. He's just a bit, you know, not soft, or he's kind of soft, but I think we should give him a year. We just need a winger. We need wingers. We need wingers that are just there every week. You know, they're going to be, they know their role. They know what they're going to do. As you can see with Melbourne, like, you know what Ed Langdon's going to do every game. You know, he's running back and forth like it was nuts in the grand final. He's getting handballs from half back and kicking goals down the other end. So, I think one more year for Lockie O'Brien. All right. So, Lukey Parks, what do you reckon, mate?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, our co-host Sam Colson is a very big fan of Lukey Parks. I reckon he has the potential, but it's also down to the amount of spots that we have left on the list. I reckon he will definitely be delisted and potentially, like a Matt Kennedy, be redrafted through the
rookie kind of thing.
Yeah. So I reckon that's probably the way to go with Parks. I don't want to particularly lose him, but I don't reckon he will get a contract before the rookie draft. But what do you think?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think he's solid, but there'll be definitely competition for those spots with Plowman and hopefully Marchbank fit. It's the same conversation every year with him, unfortunately. Yeah. But I think you re-rookie him or give him 1 year. No, nothing major. You're not going to give him 2-3 years.
No.
But hopefully he stays at the club. He's hard at it, hard nut.
Yeah.
But, we'll move on now. Next one is Matty Cottrell, who played quite a bit of footy this year. What do you reckon? Is he staying at the Carlton Football Club or?
Yeah, my opinion on Cottrell is you can't have too many of the same positions. So I reckon there is a few players that, I mean, you're asking for a winger. I reckon that's probably a Lockie O'Brien or even a Will Setterfield maybe. I mean, obviously that probably didn't work with their winger. He was probably more of a mid, an inside mid. But I reckon he might become that winger. But I don't reckon Matt Cottrell, it's stiff on him because I reckon he does try hard. But just my opinion, he might be a bit like Luke Parks, might get delisted and be re-rookied or whatever you call it. But so it's a tough one. But what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's tough because he's a Carlton boy through and through, and
exactly.
He goes hard at it. But I just don't think he cuts it at AFL level. I don't know. For me, I want a winger that's creating a lot of chances up forward. We've got that good forwards, and if we're delivering to our forwards, well, more times than not, we're going to be winning more games of footy in the future. So I don't think he will be at the club next year. But who knows? It's tough to call in these last however many spots because you just don't know. You really don't know. But we'll move on now. Michael Gibbons.
Yeah. I mean, we spoke about it off air about how Michael Gibbons was probably getting a regular game 2 years ago under Bolton. I reckon he will get a year. But as you said, we don't want too many players in the same position. And obviously that mid to small forward, he's right in that range. Yeah. So it's a tough one. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, there's so many similar players, and we don't really have. The only problem is we don't really have a standout in that kind of role.
Yeah,
I guess a Honey could definitely. He's got the potential to be that explosive player, and I think he will be. But we just don't have that 25-year-old. A lock in. We know he's going to be playing every week. We know what he's going to give us. So it's tough because all these guys are fighting for that spot. And then you've got a Cunningham coming back from injury as well, who's a mid forward as well. So it'd be interesting for Gibbo. It'd be minimum a year. I reckon. But it's tough. It's tough. He's good for the culture, good guy. So depends what Vossi wants to do with him.
Exactly.
If he wants to, move him into the midfield and add to that midfield depth, who knows? But we'll move on from Gibbo. We got Oscar McDonald. It's a tough one because I think he would have been depends, because if we can't pick up a Talia, do we keep Oscar McDonald?
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Because we will touch on it a bit later, but how we were trying to look at that potential backup key back, or even a forward, because we saw what he did against Richmond. Came on
in that second half.
He came on for about 10 minutes to kick 2. But so I reckon he could actually get a year. I reckon he's definitely, he may not have deserved it, but I reckon he's probably proven himself. He's done a bit of footy at Melbourne, and obviously we know what he is capable of. I reckon he should get a 1 year. What do you reckon?
Yeah, he's a perfect backup for me. Unless you get a Talia or some other key back, that might be a bit more appealing. If he's at the club, I don't mind. I'm not pushing him out at all. So he's a perfect backup for a Wiederings or Jones injury. So we'll move on. This is a big one. I think we'll touch on it a bit more later in the video, but Sam Trevsky's season. Do you think he'll be at the club?
No, I don't think he will. Obviously, we'll touch on it in a bit more depth later, Duffy boy. But I don't reckon he will get delisted if he doesn't end up at West Coast. But I don't think he will be at the club. I reckon it will be very tough for him to walk back into the club after requesting a trade. I reckon that's very tough for a player. We saw it a couple of years ago with Papley, and he's kind of now at Sydney and will probably stay there for the rest of his career. But I just reckon SBS, it just doesn't work hard enough. It's harsh, it's stiff, but it's quite simple. For a pick 6, whatever he was, he's not good enough. What do you reckon?
Yeah. So on Trade Radio, Stephen Silvani was on the late trade, and he was just talking about that. He's talking about Petrosi's season. In his first 60 games or so, he was progressing pretty well. I think he played his first a certain amount of games in a row without being dropped or injured or whatever. So that's solid for the start of your career. And he actually averaged over 4 tackles a game in his first 60 games. And since then, he's so after the 60 games, he's averaged 2 a game.
Kidding.
Yeah. It's ridiculous, because if you want him to play, people talk about his position. I completely understand he shouldn't be playing down back, but like Sauce said, he said probably halfback's probably the easiest position for him to play. Exactly. So he's taken probably the worst forward, and he just hovers around, and he plays within a 50-meter radius. He just doesn't attack the game. He doesn't attack the game enough for his skill set. So I think he'll be gone, but apparently they're saying it's 50-50 now after his chat with Voss. But I don't want players who want to leave the club to stay at the club, unless it's a massive name like a Walsh, but he'll never leave the club. So move on from that. Sam Ramsay. Sam Ramsay's the last name for the uncontracted players. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I reckon he will definitely get a year. If he gets delisted, I reckon that will be probably a big mistake. He definitely was knocking down the door to play AFL game. Quite surprised he didn't get an AFL game towards the end of the season, but I feel like he definitely will get another year. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think he's the perfect winger we could definitely have in our team.
Exactly.
We just need to give him a game, I think. I think we need to give him a game later on this season, just because we were pretty much playing in dead rubbers for the second half of the year, which, we weren't really playing finals. So I didn't really get why he didn't play. Tiki kept opting to play a Nunes instead, which was just I just didn't understand. I think that's what killed Tiki, just some of these, selection integrity. It just doesn't make sense. But I think a year for Ramsay, give him a shot, give him round 1, mate. Kick a couple snags round 1.
Imagine that. Comes in round 1, kick 3. Come on. Sam Ramsay.
Yeah, that's it for uncontracted players.
Perfect. So we'll now move on to obviously the free agency. It starts tomorrow. Friday. So it will obviously be a big couple of days for the AFL, but with a few names that we are linked to. So obviously we'll start with George Hewitt. What do you reckon?
Yeah, massive. I think it's a massive get. I think in the last few years we've struggled to get we tried to get bigger names through the door. Obviously, Mitch McGovern is on a lot of money. We got Sard in, who's a fairly big name. We needed Sard, but I think certain clubs, they seem to get these players that aren't so all clubs aren't into them, but they just turn into real solid players for your team. I think Hewitt's one of those names who really flies under the radar. Yeah, because I think he's played every game this year. And an interesting stat is, so the first 14 games, he was playing a half back and moved into the midfield after from round 15 onwards, and he averaged 24 touches.
Exactly.
So that shows you how, he's obviously not going to play half back for us. He'd be playing in the middle, but it just shows that he can actually play any position and still thrive. Which is perfect. What do you reckon? I think he's solid on the rock.
I mean, I reckon he would be a great get. Experience as well. How old is he?
I'd be 25, 26.
It's a 25. So he's at the perfect. He's at the perfect age, which we probably need. And obviously the contract that he's planning to get done is $450 a year across 4 years, which I reckon that is very. It's good for us because I think he's on a bit more than that at Sydney.
Yeah, he's definitely, because of the whole salary cap squeeze they have there. So with Dawson leaving as well, so which is a bonus for us. So
exactly,
they're not matching that offer. So I think if they match that offer, because he's a restricted free agent, we'd have to sort out a trade for him, which is like Jeremy Cameron's deal. Joe Danaher's deal, where the AFL gave him a compensation, but obviously Sydney don't have the money to match it, which is only a $450K, so they must be running real low, real tight. So that's perfect. 4 years. Hopefully in that time we push for contention, eh?
And so for George Hewitt, where do you reckon where would you want to see him in 2022 on the field? Inside mid?
In the middle.
Yeah,
in the middle. He's just defensively, he's great.
Yeah,
he's a bit of a more skillful Ed Kerno for me. I think both of those guys would really, be good, competitive at training. Very similar players. He gets a lot of the footy. He's a good two-way runner. I think he's perfect. Kane Corns doesn't think it's perfect, of course, but it's no risk in my opinion. Like $450K for over 4 years.
Exactly.
Is it really that bad? It's he's not on $800K. He's no Zach Williams money, but I think it's great.
Yeah, but then I reckon that's also it's good. I mean, like as you said, I reckon it will be a good replacement for Kerno, because more than likely this will probably be his last year, 2022. Hopefully he goes out with a bang. But I reckon, 25. He will probably play another 100, 150 games in the navy blue if the deal gets done. So I reckon it will be a great get for the Carlton Footy Club, which would be really good. And obviously another name that we're seeing in the free agency is obviously Daniel Talia, which we touched on a bit earlier. But what do you reckon about Talia? Because there's not much talk that we've had with him, but he's a very capable defender.
Yeah, he definitely is. He was in that grand final side for Adelaide and a pretty important part of that team. He got delisted, which is weird. Yeah, and he got delisted about round 20. So he actually went away from the team from then. So obviously they moved him on. The only negative for him is just staying fit. I think this year he struggled with injury, but geez, what are you offering him? A minimum contract? For how many years? 1-2 years? Is it really a risk?
Exactly.
If you're gonna get him?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Obviously he wants to play. It's not like he doesn't want to play. So why not offer him like a 1 or 2 year deal around maybe 200,000 to 250? Because seriously, he can't really turn. He can turn it down, but obviously he won't be playing football. Because I reckon it's no real risk for us just because it's kind of a win-win situation, really.
Yeah.
So,
And I think a lot of clubs will be going after him, just topping him up.
Yeah.
Certain contenders will be doing it as well. A Richmond might be. I think they'll get Robbie Tarrant instead.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
there'll be certain teams that, like Geelongs and who don't feel as if they're out of the contention. They're not really in that rebuild stage. They're more of that topping up players. So he might be good for those teams. But I think he'd be all right for us. He's only 29, so still got a few good years of footy ahead of him. If he's just a backup or if he plays every week, who knows? It's a bonus.
Exactly. Yeah. So obviously that's probably the two names that we've really focused on for free agency. So we'll probably move on now to obviously the trade period. This is probably where the club's a little bit more busier through the trade period. So we'll obviously start from our end, the players that we potentially will be trading away from our clubs. So obviously the main player and probably the only player that's really come out of Carlton that has requested a trade is SBS to West Coast Eagles. So what do you reckon about that, Duff?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think there was a bit of talk about before he even requested it, will he be at the club or will Fisher be at the club? A few names are from WA. It's not really surprising to me. Just the way, I guess, he dropped a few times. His position, he doesn't really know where he plays. His form's been a bit, inconsistent for mostly like the whole year. But it'll be interesting. We just need to get something back that'll be beneficial for maybe other deals that might get done. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's just a question with mine, just because obviously when the news came out that he requested a trade, I'm like, is that more the club telling him to explore his options, or is it more he actually wants to leave? But then so if that trade was to get done, what do you think the trade with West Coast Eagles would be?
Well, the problem is for us is that I don't think we were going to offer him a contract. So I think it's a bit of a 50-50. I think he wanted to leave, but it's weird because I think Vossett is talking to him, maybe to keep him, but I'm not sure what the whole conversation with them is. But so West Coast have 2 picks. They've got pick 29, pick 35. I believe it'd be one of those picks to get the deal done. A lot of people are saying it'd be pick 35. But what do you reckon? Do you reckon it's just a straight swap for a pick, or do we get a player?
I reckon it will probably be a pick. I reckon it's probably fair enough to be 35. I don't see it being 29. I don't see West Coast actually giving us the 29 instead of the 35. I mean, as you said, he's probably lucky to get a contract if he stays at the club. So I reckon it's probably fair enough. I reckon we're pretty well off to get the 35. I reckon that's pretty decent for SBS. I mean, obviously with him being a former pick 6, it's unfortunate that he's gone the other way, really, to where his potential was heading. But we'll move on from SBS. So obviously the players that we want to try and bring into the club. So obviously we're trying to, we've probably got the 3 ruckmans in the TDK pit and net, and also my mind's gone blank. Who's the other one? Murkov. Murkov's the other one.
Yes. Alex Murkov. Yeah.
So So I reckon the 3. I mean, I reckon the player that probably comes to mind from Port Adelaide is Peter Laddams. I don't think there's been much talk about Laddams, but I reckon he would be a great inclusion if we actually can get the trade done.
Yeah, definitely. He's that perfect. He'd be perfect for us. I think he'd be. I have heard a lot of people saying that Pitternet can be a bit of a liability in terms of him not being able to impact when he's not in the ruck.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times he's just on the bench. He rotates from the bench to the ruck. And barely in the forward line. He kicked a few goals here and there, but against good sides, they're going to easily be able to stop him there. But Laddams, if you got Laddams, Mackay, and Curnow up forward, he'll get the third. He'll get the third defender, or one of them will get the third defender. Who, if that third forward kicks 30, 40 goals in the year, it'll be a fucking bonus.
And I reckon he's probably showed that capability with Port Adelaide. I reckon that actually shows, because what they have, Todd Marshall, Charlie Dixon, Scott Lysette, they played all 4 of those calls, and it somewhat worked out actually all right. So, yeah. So, I mean, like, I reckon Lannon's probably has shown that capability, and I reckon if we can get that trade done, I reckon it would be an awesome inclusion to the club. So, obviously, we'll move on to the main player who yesterday has officially requested a trade to the Carlton Footy Club, which is, of course, Adam Churro from the Fremantle Dockers. Ethan Duffy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's very pleasing. I always thought he'd request a trade to us, just in terms, like, I think Melbourne were interested over the past month or so, but they just don't really have anything to get the deal done. Yeah. If they were to get the deal done, they'd have to make way for a solid contributor like a Luke Jackson, who they just, why would you get rid of him? Yeah, exactly. He's very, very important to that team for a decade to come. So, yeah, it's great. It's perfect. We should have picked him a few years ago, but so be it. Now we have both him and Dow, pick 3 and 5. So, no, I think he'll complement, Walshy well. He's one of the best 2-hour runners in the league, inside, outside midfielder that we need. Like a Walshy, very similar. Gets the ball, can get the ball on the inside and the outside. Yeah. I think over the last few years, we've had too many, we rely on Cripps to get the ball out. Just that, obviously you had the Sam Kerridges and that in the past years who they just don't have the other element to their game. Yeah. Like a Walsh, he can go inside, outside, runs all day. Like, imagine him and Churro running all day. Like, come on. Yeah. It's pretty good midfield depth. What do you reckon? What do you reckon of the whole inclusion of him in the side?
Yeah. I mean, I very highly rated him when he got drafted at pick 5. I reckon he was probably sift to not be higher than Dow. I mean, Dow's probably had that draft year where it was like he probably definitely deserved to be that pick 3. But I reckon Churro is probably quite underrated to get a pick 5, because I reckon he's probably shown also at Fremantle that he has the potential. And I reckon when they moved him into the midfield this year to probably move Nat Fyfe more into the forward line to put the Sarongs, the Brayshaws, the Cherras into the midfield, he fucking he took it with 2 hands, really. And it was really good to see. And I reckon, because probably 2 years ago or even last year, he was probably playing more as that wing. As you said, he can probably play in multiple positions in the midfield. And he was probably playing a few games when he was playing on the wing. So I reckon that's a good option. But if we bring a Churro and Hewitt into the team,
that just increases the midfield depth. I think you can't have enough midfielders that can really push for positions. You can see with Melbourne, Jesus Christ, they've got names after name. Bulldogs, they got names after name in the midfield. They got names that, they've got like a Lipinski who didn't even get a game in the grand final. So who could really add to any team. So I think if we just get that midfield depth, not have that reliance on a Walsh so much and on a Cripps so much, and you have Hewitt and Churro helping them out, and you got Kennedy's and you got Dow. If he keeps growing, get games into him. Yeah, I think it'll be perfect. Yeah. But now on to what do we give up? What do we give up for Adam Churro?
Yeah. So obviously, what's been coming out is the pick 6 that we have. If we want to get that straight trade, pick 6 for Churro, it's probably the only trade that we really can get done. I don't see it really being anything else. We spoke about it off air as well, just saying is pick 6 overs, but also Churro's proven himself. He's been pretty good at Fremantle. Fremantle kind of know that they're going to stand their ground. They're going to do everything they can to keep Churro. And so it's a tough one. What do you reckon?
So I think he can walk. So he can do what Jack Martin did and go to the preseason draft. Unfortunately, though, we've got pick 5 in the preseason draft. So we're going to have to, So if we had pick 1, Freo would have to accept a lower offer, like Gold Coast did a few years ago, and they didn't accept it. So Jack Martin just walked. So unfortunately, you can't do that. So we're going to have to give up something. I think you have to do pick 6. I think we need to get him into the team. I think he will be at Carlton. I think you can lock that in. Yeah. He's got his eyes set on the mighty Navy Blues. So I think pick 6. I don't think it'd be any other picks. I think it'd just be pick 6 for him. Yeah. You just have to get the deal done. There's a few good few good players in the top 10 in the draft this year, but I think we're kind of past that a little bit.
Yeah.
There's always guns like Luke Jackson and that who can play straight away in their careers, but I think you got a guy who's already had a few years in the league and he's still very young, and what you can get from him.
Yeah,
perfect addition.
Yeah, and also I mean, as you said, that I don't think it will be that much of a risk if we give up that pick 6 for a Churro, because Churro is still young and we still had that young talent coming up, and we still have. I mean, if the trade gets done with SBS, we still get that pick 35. Yeah. So that doesn't, I mean, it does. I mean, that's obviously a big difference, but still pick 35, we can still get a decent player.
Yeah.
So
you can still get decent players higher in the draft. You just got to be able to recruit better. You look at Melbourne, they got Rivers, Pickett and Jackson in the same draft.
Exactly.
And Rivers was picked 32 or something. Or, and Jake Bowie, what was he? Picked 40 or something.
Yeah.
So it's like, if we can recruit well, that'll be a bonus. That'll be an absolute bonus.
Yeah. And it turns out that those players are obviously premiership players as well. So obviously the grand final was last week. So so this was a very good episode for the first week of Trade Talk, Duff. But hopefully we'll probably be back for a couple more episodes over the free agency and also the trade period, and obviously with the off season as well. But as always, Duff, it's always a pleasure.
It's been great, mate. It's always great to talk picks and talk players and get excited for another year. Hopefully it's not failed again.
Of course. And as always, go the Mighty Baggers.